So it is 6:01. I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the City Council meeting of the City of Montgomery. Let's start off with the invocation. If John Champagne, would you give the invocation this evening, please, sir?
Good.
Thanks.
Here we go. Father, we thank you again for your grace, for your mercy in each of our lives and in our community as a whole, our state as a state, and our country as a country. We just thank you for the blessings that you've given us, and we ask, Lord, that as always, we be good stewards of the things that you've given us, that we acknowledge that everything that we have comes from your hand. And Father, we just ask for wisdom tonight, that the things that we decide upon, that we speak about, be honoring to you and be good for this community. We pray it all in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you. We do have a quorum, Ms. Hensley, just for the record, please. And
Yes, ma'am.
we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to
and the republic
for which it stands,
to stand
one
one
nation,
one
nation
nation,
under
under
God,
God, indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with liberty
and
and
justice
justice
for all.
for all.
Texas flag. I pledge
Honor the Texas flag,
I pledge allegiance to the
Texas,
Texas,
one state,
one state, one
indivisible.
indivisible.
One and indivisible.
All right. I did receive one email, via email, a comment. And for the record, am I mistaken, or was this also read at MEDC last week? Just for clarification.
My understanding is that was a new comment, but I don't know that for sure, Mayor.
Okay, I heard it late last week's meeting. Okay, with that, I will proceed. Sorry, I'm doing this on my phone. If the city really cares about helping, why don't you set up a fund to assist financially strapped citizens that are struggling to pay their water and sewer bill? Why doesn't the city waive late fees during this pandemic? The way to help local businesses is to buy their products and support them personally, not tear them down in some wannabe newspaper or rag that only cares about destroying reputations. If businesses grow, tax revenues grow, and then the city and MEDC can invest in our streets and sidewalks. Right now, some of our streets look like they are from a third world country. Huss and the mayor don't care about local business in the city of Montgomery. It's obvious from Huss's actions since she accused the owner of Cozy Grape 2 city council meetings ago of taking advantage of his city council status to enrich himself financially from the parking lot arrangement. If Huss would read the lease, there is nothing that benefits Cozy Grape financially from the arrangement, not the rent of $1 annually or the 20-year term, which was 15 years longer than the other property owner that the city leased from. Cozy Grape offered the 20-year lease, not the city council, not MEDC. Then Jack Yates had the audacity to try to tow our customers' cars off our lot during the last antique festival. This is why Cozy Grape hired a lawyer for $7,500 to protect our rights as a business owner, so the city and certain elected officials won't try to screw us in the future. In the 8 years that Cozy Grape's been open, I don't remember seeing your faces in there to support us. Efren Lucas, General Manager. Okay. So that's the only thing we have from the Citizens Forum. We'll go ahead and continue with business at the consent agenda. First item of matters related to the approval of minutes of the regular telephone video conferencing meeting held on April 14th, 2020. Number 2, consideration and possible action regarding approval of the mixed beverage caterers permit and permit cartage permit application for Carla Throws a Party LLC, DBA Chandler's Event Venue and Shindig Event Rentals, located at 304 and 308 Caroline Street, Montgomery, as submitted by Carla Nash. Number 3, consideration of possible action regarding completion of a 1-year warranty period for the 18-inch gravity sanitary sewer line extension, phase 1 project. Number 4, consideration of possible action regarding completion of a 1-year warranty for the Shops at Montgomery public infrastructure project and release of the maintenance bond. Council, you can take these individually or all together. What is your pleasure?
I don't have any questions about any of the individual items.
Help me out again, and I apologize, but Montgomery Public Infrastructure Project. What is that exactly?
The shops is what you said, Mr. Champagne?
Yes.
So that is what took, in the city engineer could explain this better than I, but that is the sewer line that flows from where the Chick-fil-A is, which essentially is collecting all of the sanitary sewer for the city and sending it into the waste treatment plant.
All right.
So the two, for clarification, item 3 is what Dave just mentioned. Item
Right.
4 is there's a public water and sewer line that was constructed along 2854 next to CVS. And that is
Sorry
that.
about that.
All right, that's what I thought. Just for clarification. I'm fine.
I move to accept the consent agenda items as is.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that we accept the consent agenda as presented. These motions are debatable, amendable, and requires a majority vote. It is now open for discussion. We'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor of accepting the consent agenda as presented, say aye.
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 All those opposed, say no. The ayes have it. The motion carries. It's unanimous. We will approve this consent agenda as presented. Consideration of possible action. Number 5 on these are all of the departmental reports. A, city administration COVID-19 update.
Mayor and council, I'll be delivering the departmental reports with the exception of the finance report, as well as the operations for the water and sewer. You have the report from you in front of you from Richard. I won't go through that, but I will mention that he asked me to let you know that in May he plans to come back to council with a budget amendment that would take into account the point that John Champagne had raised about some of the existing numbers in the budget, as well as having some of the data from the COVID situation and seeing some of the sales tax revenue and things. So in May, look for some kind of a budget amendment, or at least the beginnings of a discussion on one. So as we, I know that he in particular is monitoring what other cities are doing, obviously staying in tune with what the state is putting out as we start this process of reopening various segments of the economy. And so we look forward to getting things back up and going. One thing that we did want to mention that I could either mention here or in the public works, if you guys will recall, we've got about $47,000 that was in the budget for streets, for the repaving of streets, the same arrangement with Precinct 1 and using their labor, and we supplied the materials. We heard from the county, they get us on the schedule in early May. But one thing we would like to do is come back to council and get your position on whether or not we should hold off on some of the repaving, or whether we should
Hold off what, Dave? I'm sorry.
On the expenditure of the $47,000, or roughly 47,000, various streets around the city that we had in the budget. If left to Richard, he would probably hold off until we saw, kind of what the implications were on our city budget of the coronavirus, but didn't want to get it in front of y'all and just get a sense. Obviously you've already taken action on it, you've approved it in the budget, but he would like some direction on what you guys are thinking. So if you guys want to reach out to him directly, if you want to comment on it now, that's
I apologize once again. Are we on item 5A, the city administrator's report?
We are.
Okay. All right. But while I'm speaking, my position, for what it's worth, is that any essential items that are in the budget that has been approved should be done. And in my opinion, the streets are essential. So for the sake of what you just said, Dave, fix the streets.
I have to say that I disagree. I think we need to look at the full scope of what our priorities are and what has to be paid, what we would like to be paid. And unfortunately, the streets, while high on the priority list, are not a must. And so when we're looking at how much our revenues are going to contract and what our cuts are going to have to be, I think we need to look at it in totality. And so I think that we need to wait until we know the full scope of what we're looking at.
May I ask you a question, Rebecca?
Yes.
What would be higher on your priority list?
Paying essential employees.
That would be wrong. Let me tell you why.
No, that's your opinion.
Well, let me tell you why I believe it's wrong. Because the stockholders in this city has paid for services. To be in balance in terms of expenditures on employees and services rendered to the stockholders, that being the citizens, should be in balance. So the employees don't trump the citizens, in my humble opinion.
The employees provide services that the citizens value. So when we're looking at it again in totality, we have to weigh what priorities there are and how to make our revenues line up as best we can with the expenditures. And so we can't make a decision about one item in a vacuum.
Wrong. This is not a vacuum. We know
it is a vacuum because you don't know what other things are on the cutting block.
No,
and
I do know what's on the cutting block. I know a 50% reduction in revenue. That's what I know. That's coming.
That's great. So then you need to look at all of the expenditures all together
exactly right.
at the same time.
So here is our mandate: to provide services to the citizens that have paid for the services. Balance. I'm talking about balance. I've always talked about balance. The employees do not trump the services to be rendered to the citizens.
It depends on what services they're providing. It certainly depends on what services that they are providing.
All services.
I don't really think so.
Well, that's your opinion. That's fine.
Exactly. And I'm trying to present it in a slightly more balanced fashion. So I think Dave was asking for an opinion. You provided yours, and now I have provided mine. Perhaps TJ and Tom would like to weigh in on it.
Certainly. I think also that as much as we need the city employees, the citizens elected us, not the city employees. So I think we need to, we did the same thing last year. We blew off streets and we're blowing off sidewalks and we're making excuses for not getting it done.
I think that was part of the overall master plan that we've been working on. Those are definitely on the priority list, absolutely. But that was also, we were waiting to see what TxDOT did and that overall master plan and comprehensive plan that's supposed to be rolling out. I don't know when now since COVID.
Let me ask a question to Rebecca, who I value your opinion, by the way.
I can tell. Go on.
No, I truly do. That was not a sarcastic statement. I really do. If it was coming out of your hip pocket, how would you do it?
It depends on what
Simple
services
question,
specifically
Rebecca.
we're talking about.
Simple
I live
question.
on a street that I have actually, since I've been on council, have pushed to not have repaved because I don't see the value in it. So
You
I
don't,
am
huh?
putting my
You
money
don't?
where my taxpayer dollars are.
Let me tell you
I'm out.
let me tell you, our mandate is to do very few things in terms of government. It's not to hold hands. It's not to cuddle people. It is to provide services. Now,
Right. And
we
flushing the
have
toilets and providing
finished?
safety
May I
is
finish?
one of them,
May I
or two
finish?
of them rather. So if it comes down to it, and those two services require people in order to get right.
I am not.
Those two services are specifically the ones that I'm thinking of when I'm talking about ones that we need to look at when you look at what has to be done in order to cut $1 million out of our budget.
Forgive me,
So
but this is platitudinal speak. Here's
hardly,
what I'm,
hardly. I got elected by the most people voting ever on a
That has
slogan of
nothing
I
to do
care
with
how
this
much it costs to
conversation.
flush your toilet. People
You're-
care how much it costs to flush your toilet, and doing it successfully is a service that the city provides, and people expect it to do so. So you might like to hold their hands, but I think people would prefer to flush
I totally
by
agree.
themselves.
I totally agree. Here's my point. We have a 50% reduction in revenue.
Not this
All
year.
I'm saying is,
I'm guessing it's only 25% off the top line this year.
Can I finish? I'm not saying we should have a wholesale reduction in personnel. What I am saying is the pain that we are experiencing is to be realized by everyone. And also I'm saying that the people that are paying the bill need to have a return on investment in balance. I'm not saying we should severely cut personnel. I'm saying we should look at both sides of the ledger.
And I can agree with that, but in totality, if not in tone. And what I'm saying is that we need to look at it in its totality rather than one piece at a time and make decisions one piece at a time. Because when you get to the end and you haven't looked at the whole picture, you have things that you wish you had the money to spend.
What I'm saying is we have 4 or 5 mandates. The first, in my opinion, is to protect the citizenry. The second is to make sure the water is at the faucets, the toilets flush, and the roads work. Now, after that, you tell me what's important.
Did I not just say that I cared about toilets and
I know
police?
you
Because
do.
I think
I'm
that's what.
asking you, after that, what's important?
Because I think when I was saying about the things that I was going to prioritize, that water and sewer and public safety were my top 2. So that's why I'm saying that I'd like to look at the streets in the context of our entire obligation to the city.
And what is
its
the other
priorities.
obligation? That's my question.
You can look at it in the budget. We've got 3 pages of line items just for the general account
I'm
alone.
asking you specifically what obligation is giving you angst in regards to the 4 items I just mentioned.
Well, we obviously have to pay our contractually obligated debt on our notes. We have to pay our contractually obligated debt on our 380 agreements and other reimbursement agreements. That is a problem because as our top line is shrinking, the percentage.
Those are not controllable. Those are uncontrollable obligations.
Again, which means that you need to look at them in context of what's happening to the overall picture, because as our top line is shrinking, the percentage of those uncontrollable fixed amounts gets larger.
So here's my question. This is your business. What do you do?
I'm telling you what you do. You look at it in an entire context. You don't make the decision about one thing in.
Give me specifics. Tell me what to do. Because I know what to do.
I'm already telling you what to do. I'm telling you I want to look at it in a whole picture. I want to look at it rather than making one headline-inducing decision about streets today in opposition to the man you hired to micromanage the city.
I'm saying this. If I'm running this city, if this is my business, I look at all my department heads and I say this: how can I reduce cost? Has that been done
Yes, it has.
in every aspect?
Yes, Richard Tram. Yes, have you spoken with Richard? He has
Well, I have, but I'm yet to see a specific.
all department heads to.
I'm yet to see a specific.
If you let me finish, please, Champagne. I appreciate it. He
Forgive
has
me.
given all department heads the directive of only essential procurement should take place. Essential, and they have.
What does that mean? What does that mean, Mayor?
So that would making sure that the city is running, but not buying extras. I mean, I think we all know what essential means.
No. Give me a number. Give me a percentage. That is platitudinal speak. It means nothing.
I think that we should look at what money we have coming in and say, okay, can we afford it or not? How can we go? I understand, given on the last budget, that the money was there. We projected it in the budget, but now with the change of times, we don't know what to expect. You think that there's 50%. Rebecca just said 25%. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know how much money is going to be coming in or what our life looks like. So how about we step back and take a look at what actually comes in? And then we have to rework the budget accordingly. And I agree, there are streets that need attention, without a doubt. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying let's make sure that we are affording it in a proper way versus going out and buying. They're not essential. You're able to travel on the streets. They're not the best looking streets. I agree with you. However,
I'm not looking at looks. Looking at safety.
Right. So safety. Right. Absolutely. And has there been a wreck on these streets that we're looking at getting? I mean, what's the difference?
We're going to wait for it, Mayor? We're going to wait for a wreck?
Can I finish? What's the difference between now and 3 months from now, once we get a full understanding of the impact of this pandemic?
Here's my question.
Difference? Is that big? That's my question.
Was that a question?
Yes.
My answer to that is, what's keeping us from the proactive plan, assuming there's a 50% reduction in revenue? What's keeping us from doing that?
The assumption. I'd like to see real numbers. We can assume. Maybe
you would like to wait until it hits us in the face. Is that what you're saying?
What hits us in the face? The
reduction.
I'd like to take a look to see what.
I'd like to make a plan in event of a 50% reduction. See, there's a difference. You want to wait till it happens. I want to anticipate it happening.
So why are you so hot to spend $46,000?
I'm done. I'm done.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd like to leave it up to Richard. His advice is to wait.
And I have. I've given him all my opinions, and
on spending the road money. That's this issue that Dave asked the question that started this.
And my question to you was, where does that fall out in your priority list?
Right, and I told you somewhere after safety and clean water.
Safety?
Public safety, yes. As in the police department, yes.
Public safety. Oh, I see. Okay. All right. Fair enough.
And again, to be clear, we're talking about my own road in front of my house, which I have pushed back for 6 years. What's that?
I care about the roads in total in the city. I couldn't care less about your road.
Okay.
But what is it? Which roads, David, would this $47,000 go to repave? Can you please remind us?
I would let Mike speak to that if Susan would mind unmuting Mike. I would think he's got a complete list. I know most of them, but I'll leave it to Mike to specifically address them.
I think there were three.
There we are. So it was, let me look back at the text because I don't have the list in front of me, but it was, okay, here we go. It was Baja, Worsham Street, Old Plantersville, Westway, and McGinnis Lane. That's the streets that council approved the county paving for a grand total of an estimate of $47,515.
And there is no doubt that these streets need it, for sure. But I don't think that they're going to get any worse than watch for 90 days and just be mindful of the our constituents and ensure that we can certainly afford it and get a better in our pocketbook instead of soon. Okay, thank you, Mike.
Man.
Very good. The second half of his report is the development report. I'll just mention a couple things. There are two new subdivisions with about 230 home sites that are in the early stages of development, both existing developers in town, one out on the west side, one just north of Buffalo Springs. So those are, again, in the very early stages. Still talking with several commercial developers who are looking at a couple parcels on the east side of town. The development overall is not slowing down because of this.
Great.
If any of you have any questions on that, I'll be glad to address, or you can email Richard and follow up with him. Otherwise, I'll move on to the Public Works report.
Thank you, Dave.
All right, a couple things on the Public Works report. Again, you've got all the details that you can follow up with questions. Yes, sir.
Time out.
Yeah.
You're giving the Public Works report?
I'm going to give all the department reports with the exception of finance, who you guys have not met yet. And a lot of that is just for streamlining without
All right, fair enough.
Over the meetings. But a couple things in the Public Works realm, you may have noticed if you've been to Cedar Break Park, staff has added some parking over on the west side of town. The Public Works guys did the culverts, the stabilized sand, a lot of the excavation work. They had the paving contractor in this past week working on the paving. And at the end of the Public Works report, you'll see the Public Works guys installed a manhole down on the corner of Old Plantersville with they did in-house as opposed to a contractor in the neighborhood of $8,200 in doing that. So, and it's has stopped the sewer backups at my house and my neighbor's house because we're down near the bottom of the hill, as well as again just keeping everything over on the south side of town here flowing. So. You guys have any questions on that, I'll be glad to relay them or see what I can do to answer them. And again, we have here. The police report, again, on this, some of the main changes are their operational stance, in relation to this virus. One of the things that the chief wanted me to reiterate is that, while, the arrests made and, the detainment of suspects is, at a minimum now, they are issuing 2B warrants. So we are absolutely not letting anyone go during this time. There's just a delay in when they're going to be, addressed for their individual citations. Obviously something that had to do with the immediate safety of the public would be handled. Otherwise, they're trying to maintain the distance that they can keep in a job where their entire focus is making, interactions with people. Down to the courts.
Excuse me, is TJ on this meeting?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Dave,
Yes, sir.
you know if the investigator position was filled?
It was, yes, sir. It was filled this week. He started on Monday, and they are in the final stages of getting his office space squared away so he can get to work.
Or who was hired?
I'm sorry?
What's the gentleman's name?
Chief.
Albert Chambers.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you.
And who is this? I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
He's our police investigator that we brought on staff.
When did we do this?
Monday. The process started actually, a couple of months ago, but
Yeah. So here's a question. Have we modified our personnel utilization in regards to our anticipated reduction in revenue in terms of utilization of police officers? Have we done any of that specifically?
You want to step in to answer that?
I spoke to Chief Solomon today, and he did have 4 open spots, and these hires were done prior to the COVID, and he's not filling the other 2 spots currently.
Okay, let me ask the question again. Has nothing to do with what you just said. Have we adjusted our utilization of existing personnel assets in regards to police officers, anticipating the reduction in revenue? And it's
John, if I can ask Susan, if I can ask to unmute the chief, he's here on the.
Yeah.
yeah, I see.
Chief, are you there? He's unmuted.
He is unmuted.
I've got somebody on a phone line with 6637.
Everybody understand the question I just asked?
Yes, sir. Well, I don't know the specific answer to it. I will get that answer.
No, not just
Chief.
you, Dave. You're doing a great
Sure.
job. I meant everybody else. Everybody else understands the question I just asked?
Absolutely.
Good.
Is the chief available or he's not available?
I think he may be having mic problems because he's on the line with us.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got him. He's calling in on another line and I can't get to him. But I've got him unmuted on here, but I don't see him listed on the phone number he's calling in on.
I'll tell you what, if you guys would like, while he's, you know, if we can get him to, I'll see if I can run through the court real quick.
That's fine. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Again, you know, the reports are in front of you there, but, you know, a couple of the numbers that stuck out to me were over the first 3 months, we, you know, obviously, you know, and I spoke with court today. A big challenge is the technology bridge between, you know, the folks who are getting the citations and getting the court. You know, speaking with the frontline, you know, folks there, it's very difficult to, you know, even in normal times, sometimes to get in some of the citations taken care of, either online or over the phone. So you can see just from the numbers, we're 47% down on citations and revenue this year, or I'm sorry, 47% down on the citations since January, 32% down on revenue since January. But again, the court is doing a fantastic job. A lot of it, again, is just the education of trying to get the folks in compliance who want to take care of a citation, but either figure out, you know, how to submit it online, or they're not able to attach something to an email and send it.
Sorry, Dave, what I'm looking at says that the March revenue is about the same as the January revenue, which I was going to ask about.
Right, yes, yes. You know, I see that about the 23,000 mark.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know specifically why, you know, those are those, but I was looking at the January, February, and March, you know, totals.
Oh, versus last year.
Right, yes, sorry.
Okay, got it.
Left that part out.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Utilities and general fund. You see that the utilities brought in about 162,000. Permits just a little over 38,000. Total revenue was 212,842. We've got a total of 818 water accounts. And
Dave, just for record, I've been told, and I believe it's true, that we are for businesses, residents, just helping them out if they if there's a late, if they're providing.
right, you were kind of breaking up there, but I know exactly where you're going with that. Yes, we are not charging late fees during this time, nor are we making disconnects for individuals either living in their homes or for a business, kind of if there was someone that would not fall in that, in the non-cutoff status. So say for folks like home builders who have, 7 or 8 accounts with us, if they're going to fall into arrears, they're going to need to pay those. If they're,
Whoa. Why the difference in applying this?
To say like a home builder.
Yeah. Where's the differential here?
So for, say like there's a home builder who say, hasn't paid, a bill on a couple of his homes that he's working on since early January.
Right.
That, to me is something different than, this last month or, 6 weeks.
Perfect answer. So what is the limit that the city has set in terms of our allowance?
Well, I don't know specifically what that is.
Dave, there was a subjective inference you just made in terms of the builders, but nothing objective and definitive in regard to where that line is.
Yes, sir.
The line for the builders, but where's the line for residential? You see, here's my point. I have no problem with the desire to give people leniency. By the way, they should be getting federal money from this superfluous fiat money that's been created by the federal government to give to each of us. So the way they spend it's none of my business. What is my business is when they pay their utilities. So tell me what the objective line is of demarcation. Do we have one?
I would bet that we do. Unfortunately, I don't know it because I'm not in the utilities.
Okay. Well, somebody
I can sure get you that
somebody
answer.
on this call is.
I would say that that's probably a Richard question that he could answer for us.
No. That would be a Mike Muckleroy question, would it not?
Well, he's over the public works. The utility billing is, and I know it may seem like a strange.
No. Who does the billing person work for?
Ultimately works for Richard.
Okay.
Well, ultimately, I would say that that's more of a policy issue, which how is city council reacting to what's going on and what kind of decisions are we making to support our residents and businesses? That it's a policy issue, John. I know you've got the look on your face, but
Rebecca, that is just, tell me some specifics.
So the question is, how far are we going to go to try and keep people on a payment plan? And what kind of arrears are we going to allow? That's something that the 4 of us currently need to decide.
Well, and what is that decision based on, Rebecca?
Well, I suppose it's based on whatever the 4 of us can agree upon. Which
No, not in my opinion. It's based on what this organization has coming in and what it can do to sustain itself. That's it.
Well, that's true, but that is a decision that the 4 of us would need to decide because it's not necessarily.
That's an objective thing, not a subjective. Well, I'm not sure. We don't know. I'm asking for specifics. I don't live in this wonder world where, well, I'm not sure. Well, you need to be sure.
Well, but I'm saying it's a policy decision that ultimately we need to decide how much we can allow people to accrue, how long we can allow people to get on a payment plan for. And those are decisions that city council needs to be comfortable with because, we've looked at our 30 to 60 and 90 plus day arrears, and it's something we ask about all the time.
I'm with you, gal. I'm with you. Why the differential between builders and residents?
So my personal view is that residents are long-term contributors to the city's profitability and quality of life, whereas builders are much more short-term.
To the quality of life, Rebecca.
I'm sorry?
They don't contribute to the quality of life here.
The builders, not on the long term.
They don't.
They're here to build a product and sell.
What?
They're here to build a product and then leave after they sell.
Yeah, but they've left an asset that lends itself to the quality of life to this city.
Well,
My
also,
question is, give me an answer, an objective answer as to why there should be a difference in the way these subjective ordinances are applied, or rules are applied. I don't get it.
if you're
I don't.
being practical, a builder is trying to get the building built and sold, and if they're not working on it and they're not paying their bills, they're probably not going to be selling it anytime soon. So they don't
What's the
care whether
difference?
the water is
What's the
on
difference?
or not.
If a resident is not working and is buying whatever he believes is more important than his water, what's the difference?
There isn't anything more important than
Yeah,
water.
you got it.
If I can just give you some specific on this builder that I'm talking about, it's less of a COVID-19 and more of just an accounting situation on and that we've wrestled with, not in the last month. So,
David, all I'm saying is this superfluous, subjective. It's just there's no specifics here, and I'm struggling. I'm struggling why we're not dealing with specifics. Oh, we have a new normal. What the hell does that mean? Right?
We need
I
to
don't
be
even want to.
consistent across the board.
Let's deal with what we got.
I can tell you from in terms of a specific, we've got about 10 months of operating in the utility account, right now. So as you guys, start to think and consider, from a policy perspective that you guys are willing to do or want to do, in the coming months, just keep that in mind. So with that, the next one on the list is the operations report, which I will turn over to Michael if he's ready. Michael, you with us?
May need to be unmuted.
Susan, you may have to
He is,
unmute him.
you're unmuted.
Is it Michael Williams or Mike Moncarone?
Michael Williams.
He's muted.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Sorry, had the wrong mic. Okay.
Michael, you with us?
I'm here. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
All right. It's good to see all y'all again. We keep this short and sweet. For the month of March, we have a number of district alerts. And unless you have any questions, I wanted to point out on one of them, we did have an alarm for the well 4 failed to prime. And we had a CNC water well go out there and take a look at it. And the well motor did fail. The reasoning on that was due to a insulation failure on the motor itself. So, but they were able to install a temporary rental and then reinstall the motor on April 2nd. So we didn't have too many charges from the well being down because they were able to get to that and get it repaired so quickly. On to the next page, we have your Affluent trend. Flow for the month of February through March was 4.964 million gallons. Daily peak was February 24th at 314,000. Our daily average flow was 171,200 gallons. All our samples are in compliance for the month of March. And on the water report, we sourced a total of 8.276 million gallons, had a flushing and leaks number of 1,068,000 gallons, which is a little higher than normal because we did have to drain some tanks for interior inspections, bringing us to a 97% accountability. On page 7, 8, 9 are your supplemental reports with a 13-month history. Did council have any questions on that report?
No. Thank you, Michael.
Thank y'all.
Very good. Now I will turn it over to Anthony Lasky. Susan, if you could unmute him. You guys have not had a chance to meet Anthony, but he is our new senior finance clerk and our city bookkeeper. So go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to meet all of y'all, and I'm going to be looking forward to working with y'all coming up in the future, taking Kathy Franco's spot. She's enjoying retirement as far as I know, so we try to keep in touch here and there. As I said, I'm just going to go over, of course, the totals that you have in each of your funds. If there's anything specific or any way that you kind of prefer how things are explained or presented, just let me know. Just want to make it as easy as possible for y'all in any way, shape, or form.
Anthony, can you skip the bank balances? I mean, we can all read those. We could skip more to the interesting stuff. That would be great.
Sure, I can do that indeed. As of right now, with your operating fund or your general fund, we currently have about from as of March 31st, you have about 5.5 months reserve or so, but currently, Richard was asking earlier about that, and there's about 4.5 months. There wasn't any sales tax that was collected for the month of March because of that overpayment from I guess back in September. So, and then there was a small $2,700 amount for April. So starting in May, we should be back to normal again as far as you receiving sales tax. And then, of course, as I said, there wasn't anything.
Could you repeat that again, please?
There was nothing that was reported for sales tax for the month of March because of the overpayment that was back in September. That I guess was from HEB or supposed to go to Magnolia.
All right, let's stop right there. You're telling me we have no report on sales tax for the month of March?
Because there was an overpayment that was back in September. Yes.
So we don't know.
It was paid.
Yeah, this was zero sales tax received, but this is
I
money
thought
that
I was asking somebody else that question. I'm sorry.
We talked about this at last meeting.
Another person. Okay.
This is something we've talked about several times and in great depth. This is money that's not ours. It wasn't recorded as ours, and we didn't
Once
think.
again, it's a simple question. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about what is the residual amount that is going to be realized by the city of Montgomery. What is it?
It's a $400,000 payment that now we have now paid back fully, but we actually put those funds in an account to build interest on, and now we'll be able to replenish it. But yes, for 2 months we did not get any sales tax.
That's okay. I would just like to know what the net value of the revenue was for sales tax for the month of March. Can I get that answer?
That would have been roughly 217,000.
See how simple that is? And what's our obligation for that month in terms of expenses?
The obligation, just trying to get a little more specific on that.
Take your time. Let me give you a guess. Like $350,000. Is that about right?
It was 396-ish or so.
Okay.
And then the rest of it's getting paid back for this month, leaving roughly 2,700 that we collected for April.
Total? In total?
Total.
And you people are telling me that we need to wait? Wait for what?
You guys are talking about two separate things. He's still
No,
talking about
we're not. I'm talking about revenue and expenses.
He's talking about the HEB expense.
You know what? I'm talking about money coming in, money going out. That's all I'm talking about.
He's talking about the HEB expense.
I just asked a question.
Right,
What
you guys
is
are talking about two
the
separate
net
things.
revenue for the city of Montgomery for March? And I was just given that. The shortfall was obvious. How has this become complicated? It's not complicated. This is simple stuff. What, am I on another planet? Obviously I am.
I can't speak to the ad valorem taxes, but I think the 217 that Anthony
That doesn't even make a dent.
was,
Help me out, folks. Maybe I'm the lone guy crying wolf. Help me out here. Because I run a business. I have to meet a payroll. I know what it's like. Oh, Tom, I believe, does as well. This is not complicated. And I'm sorry, what's your name that I'm talking all over here?
My name is Anthony.
Anthony?
Yes.
I'm sorry. So that was March, right?
Yes, sir.
It's too early for April. Any tendencies? You see any tendencies? Do you see a recovery in April?
Everything should be paid back. That's how we got the 2,700 for April, and then by next month in May, we should see the regular amount hopefully come back.
Okay, you're speaking about specific individuals, right? I'm talking about net. I'm talking about net revenue. I'm talking about trends. You gave me March. I'm asking about April. Trends. Does the trend seem to be going up or down?
It'll go back up to normal.
Based on what, Anthony?
Based on repaying back the HEB, the HEB amount that was accidentally deposited back in September.
I'm talking about net, Anthony. I couldn't care less about HEB and whatever else. I'm talking about net.
I'm not sure this is his area of expertise.
No, listen, I understand it's a bit of an unfair question. I understand that. I'm asking for an opinion in terms of trends. Anybody else want to offer an answer?
Hey, Dave, have you and Richard done any forecasting for the fiscal year?
I know that Richard has, I know it's not an answer that you want to hear, but right now there's not enough data to do much forecasting from. Should we be seeing it in the next 2 to 3 weeks? Yes. But
that's an honest answer, buddy. Thank you.
So when we look at something like sales tax, for instance, as all of you know, that is 2 months behind. So to understand any real hit on the sales tax, we're going to be, into June, seeing the stuff that's coming in April.
Hey, Dave, let me
Yes.
ask you a question in conjunction with Tom's question. What do you think the trend is, Dave?
My own guess is somewhere around 20 or so percent.
No, I'm just asking
down.
percentage. I'm just asking percentage.
What is a percentage you think?
No, I'm asking for a guess. I'm
20% down.
How much?
20% down.
Okay.
City.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right.
A lot of that is just kind of based off, the composition of our retail here. If we had a whole bunch of big box stores, I'd be looking at that, totally different. You look at a city like a Shenandoah, who's, relying on a Portofino center or something like that. That's a different animal than, a city like us where, a good portion of our sales grocery stores and.
This is what we pay you guys for, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We pay you to look ahead.
Yes, sir.
I'm not asking you, listen, you're not a prophet. I'm not asking you for hard numbers. I'm asking you, what the indications? What do you see maybe? And I'm not going to hold anybody to that. I'm just asking, this is what we pay you for. To look
Yes,
ahead,
sir.
not behind, ahead. Okay.
Anthony, what else you got in that report?
Unless there's anything else or any other questions, that's pretty much all I have.
Very good. With that, we'll move on to city engineer's report. Mr. Rosnowski. Oh, hang on one second, Chris. Susan, would you mind unmuting Chris?
I'm getting it. It takes a second.
Got it.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. You should have a copy of our report. Like everyone else, I'll hit the highlights and go from there. Regarding the Baja Road project, that is complete. We're still working with staff on the corner. So we got proposals a couple weeks ago, sent it to staff, and due to right now, we wanted to get a couple other proposals just to make sure the price was fair. We felt it was, but waiting until your first meeting in May to get proposals is the goal. And we're closing out, as of today, the final documents. We're on the phone with Dave and GrantWorks. So the reimbursement to the city will be hopefully being processed soon. Downtown Waterline we'll talk about on the next agenda item. So I'll skip over that one. Water Plant 3 improvements. We met with the TORC back on April the 9th, went over a handful of comments, and we'll have those addressed here in the next few days to submit for final approvals. And then we'll update the final cost estimate for the project and sit down with staff to see how we want to bid it out. I think that we bid it with alternates is how we have it planned to be able to give us some flexibility when the prices come in based on what we have today. Item D, the water plant backfill project. So this is one that has been sitting on here for years. It was designed, I think back in 2016 is when it was completed and bid. It's been bid a couple times. Prices never were correct on it that came in. Now with the changes in Lone Star rules, the need for it has decreased substantially since we're not going after credits. We're not going, really our reduction requirement on using more Catahoula water has gone away. So the recommendation between us and staff is to put this on indefinite hold. So plans are done, the bidding documents are done, put them on the shelf, see how Lone Star rule changes in the future. If it's something that becomes more advantageous, bid it at that time. Moving over to page 2, item F, the lift station number 1 replacement. There's a handful of pictures on the site. So the actual structure of the wet well is complete. They're working on the above ground stuff now, as well as electrical. We did have 2 pay estimates since your last meeting, totaling $103,167. This all comes from the Texas Water Development Board loan. Also from the developer contribution, he put up $200,000 toward this project. It's a $1.1 million project. He is behind schedule, that being the contractor. Right now is not expected to be complete until late May. So we're working with him on damages, et cetera, that are already in the contract for late delivery. Moving over to page 3, I want to hit a couple things on upcoming developments or existing developments. If you'll take a look as I'm going through at the developments map, that might be more useful because there's a handful of new names that we haven't talked about before. Starbucks, we reviewed and approved their plans. That is coming in the same center as Chick-fil-A, just a couple of doors down. Heritage parking expansion, so the existing Heritage building, those are ready to be approved along with the development plat that's tied to it once the building lines are recorded. I don't need to go into a lot of detail, but since they're going through development plat is not a recorded document. So they're having to record their building lines, vegetative buffers, et cetera, separately. So they still apply to the property. Last couple items on that page on their plat reviews, Town Creek Crossing, sections 1 and 2. This is Philip Lefebvre's development between Buffalo Springs, Pleasant Morgan, and Lone Star Parkway. So he will be going to P&Z next week for his preliminary plat. And Depato Development is on the north side / west side of Lone Star Parkway. all those commercial reserves. So in total, I think between those two developments is 8 commercial reserves and around 200 homes. Also on your map, you'll see a townhome development on Ples Morgan. I can't remember the exact number of units. We haven't seen much from them in a few months, but they are starting with their design slowly but surely. And then moving over to page 4, Hills of Town Creek, section 4. They have also submitted a preliminary plat. That's for another 30 homes north of the apartment complex on Emma's Way. And that's shown on your exhibit as well. 1-year warranty inspections, there's a handful listed. You've already taken action on 2 of them. One update for Lake Creek Village, section 3, that's been on here for a very long time. They completed that work last week. So they regraded and did the ditch on Buffalo Springs. So we'll be going back out over the next couple days, especially depending on what the weather does tonight, to see if that is draining as it was intended.
Chris, on that note, did we find out if that 1-year warranty starts from the day or if it starts from the original date? That was something that was left over from a previous meeting that I had asked.
This one I'm talking about is,
I was talking about the bridge, sorry.
You're talking about the bridge. So we're still working through that one, and I don't have a specific item on here. I need to add it so we don't forget. We've been in conversations with the contractor on it. He is fighting us heavily on wanting to go back out there and complete.
I'm sorry, there was background noise.
Sorry. The contractor is fighting his responsibility to need to go out there, of course. So it's on me to get with Alan in his office and discuss options for the city. One thing I also discussed with Mike is getting a second opinion contractor out there so we understand the magnitude of the scope of the repairs, to have an actual price to understand how much what are we fighting over? Is this a $5,000 repair? Or is this a $25,000 repair? So we're working through that.
It wasn't Mr. Fuquay, it was a third party that he had hired to do this. Is that correct?
It is, but it's still, the contract that the city had was with Glenn Fuquay.
Right.
And it was one of his subs, but the city doesn't have a separate contract with him.
So
It's
still
Fuquay.
his obligations.
That's correct. Still his obligation.
I went over there on Sunday and it actually looks worse than it did a few weeks ago.
Right. Yeah, and that's, Mike has gone out there and done some minor patching, trying to keep expenses down, but just to keep it from being undrivable. But yeah, it doesn't look good at all. So, and then the last page of our report, the right-hand turn lane. So I believe last council meeting, y'all took action to complete the documents for the donation of the right-of-way. Following up with TxDOT, they're now saying that is still tied to construct those with the whole of 149 improvements. TxDOT, recall that we had a conversation years ago that would be done under maintenance. So they are going back and checking their records. And then we're also going through the mobility study, and Catherine was going through it today with our transportation guys to see what of the data we can pull from there to start to bolster the case for moving that forward. And so we're working with staff on that. And then the last item, the Aina water plant inspections. This was something that was completed back in March. Everything came back generally okay. There's a handful of items that were noted that were already in the scope of the water plant 3 improvements project, and then some recoating at water plant 2 to extend the life of one of those tanks. And Mike was getting a proposal, and just due to timeline, I think we're pushing that off into the fall to get some recoating work done to make sure we get the full life out of those tanks.
Chris, quick question. Do you know the approximate value of the Starbucks building site?
I do not. They don't have this, and the reason I can get it, is they don't have a separate escrow agreement that we ask for that information. They're tied in with the total of the shop's development. But that's something we can easily ask.
Okay. I mean, I'm not going to, change a permit or anything like that. It's just a question related to something else. So
I'll ask.
A round number would suffice.
Okay. Will do.
Thank you.
And that's all I have for this item.
Thank you.
So is that the end of the department head reports?
It is.
Oh, we still got something hanging.
What's hanging?
Chief Solomon.
Chief, did you ever get with us? Miss Susan, if you try to unmute him one more time and we'll just cross our,
I'm trying.
see what happens.
You do remember the question, right?
Utilization of staff.
He's unmuted.
Chief, you with us?
He's still muted.
It muted back. Hold on. I don't know why. I don't know whether somebody else is hitting it. Okay, he's on. Well, now he's back again.
Hey, Chief, you
I
with us?
apologize.
Looks muted on my end.
Yes, I've
There are
been.
two.
We've got two Anthony Solomons. Are either of you with us?
Okay, I heard somebody. Chief, are you there?
Not like Darth Vader.
Okay, Chief, can you hear us?
All
Okay,
right.
I've got him unmuted.
Okay, I'm going to leave this for the sake of time. Here, I'm going to sum this up. Last I checked, police department represents about 54%, give or take, of the total payroll of this city. My simple question is, have we changed the utilization of existing assets, our most important assets, personnel, to reduce our cost in terms of payroll and increase our utilization of existing personnel? That's it. And I'll get an answer later on. I'm done.
Very good. I'll make sure that I get with the chief on that to make sure we follow up, and we'll get it out to all the council.
I move to accept the departmental reports as presented.
Second.
It is moved and seconded the departmental reports as presented. This motion is debatable and amendable and requires a majority vote. It is now open for further discussion. All those in favor of accepting the departmental report?
Okay. Yeah, it's about wrapping.
I'm sorry.
It's fine.
Jeff Waddell, would you please mute yourself? Thank you. All those that accept the departmental reports as presented, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will accept the departmental reports as presented. Item number 6 on your agenda, consideration of possible action regarding acceptance of the construction bid for the TWDB Downtown Waterline Replacement Project and authorize the project to be rebid.
All right, this is me again. So earlier this afternoon, you received a revised item on this from Dave. Looks like what got sent out Friday missed a page, which had the bulk of, actually, I think you had thanks for your consideration was about all you got from me on that one. But to summarize it, so back on March 16th, we received bids for the waterline replacement project. If you remember, this was right when COVID-19 stuff was starting to show its head and effects and shutdowns were being talked about. One contractor submitted a bid. Our estimate on the project was around $780,000. Contractor submitted bid was $1.35 million on the project. The contractor that submitted was DL Glover, which you have worked with before. He is currently, or well, technically, on the 18-inch sewer line there. He was a fine contractor, so nothing against him, but his price is way out of line of where it is estimated to be. So we went back there and did a handful of things. First, we called all the contractors who had pulled bids or pulled the bidding documents to submit. There was a lot of interest in the project and tried to figure out why. And so what they came up with, or not came up with, what they told us was there's a high number of bids at the time, which is always their excuse. Unfamiliar with a product that we specified. So with being a water line replacement, we recommended a PVC pipe that fuses together versus other materials that they're more commonly open to. We have reasons for doing it, but a handful of contractors are not familiar with it that we work with here in the city. And then also COVID-19 was a big one on their list. They didn't want to lock themselves into a project like this with the COVID-19 stuff that was starting. So we looked at that. We then also looked at, based on the scope of the project, what pieces can we make as alternates in a rebid to be able to give more flexibility in bid prices. So the ultimate goal is there's a 12-inch water line on 149 that stops by Jim's Hardware. It then all goes down through 8-inch and 6-inch pipes to get to a 12-inch line across the street from City Hall and 105. So the ultimate goal is connecting those two pieces. So we have a continuous 12-inch pipe through the city. What was also included in this project was taking it further east of Pond Street, so across 149 in front of Brookshire Brothers, and taking it down Houston Street to get to the water plant site. Those two pieces aren't as critical as the majority of our water comes from water plant number 3 anyway, so getting that loop closed. So the proposal is to make those as alternate pieces of the project, as well as providing flexibility and giving an alternate for different pipe materials. Since if we can get more contractors that will give us a HDPE pipe versus a fusible PVC pipe, we can get the same benefit out of the project if it gives the flexibility to the contractors to be able to use it to get the prices in. So our recommendation on this is to accept the bids, not award the project to DL Glover, and authorize the project to be rebid. And then assuming that you do authorize it, we would bid it and have bids at your June 9th meeting. A couple things to note is the contractors we talked to said that if we provided a rebid, they would generally be open to resubmitting. One said he ran out of time, which was just an excuse because the thing bid for over 30 days. But any questions?
No, I appreciate you looking at why it didn't work rather than just recommending that we go for a much higher cost. So I move to accept the construction bid and authorize the project to be rebid.
Second.
And seconded that we accept the construction bid and authorize the project to be rebid. This motion is debatable and amendable and requires a majority vote. It is now open for discussion.
Just help me out, Chris. We're accepting a bid and requesting a rebid, correct?
Oh, I think you.
That's what I just heard.
Susan, I think you went back on mute.
I'm trying to unmute.
Sorry,
Okay.
I have a high-risk game of 2 kids under 4 in my house, so I've tried as they beat it. I already had 1 break-in, so. But yes, you're accepting the receipt of the bid, but you are not awarding that bid to the contractor who submitted. So you're saying, yes, we received them, I get the price, and not award.
There's a difference between received and accept, in my opinion.
Correct.
So your motion, Rebecca, is to accept or receive?
I am doing what Richard recommended in the document that we have on the tablet.
I'm not disputing that. I'm just.
So yes, to clarify, I am not advising that we pay for it. I am just acknowledging receipt of the bid, and to clarify also, this is for the Texas Water Development Board Downtown Water Line Replacement Project.
Thank you. Help me understand. Thank you.
Okay, so I've got in for the minutes, accept receipt of the bid and authorize going back out to rebid.
Yes, ma'am, for the TWDB Downtown Water Line Replacement Project.
Okay.
Tom, are you comfortable seconding that with the discussion around it?
Yes, certainly. I mean, you just clarified it, but yes, I would second that also.
This motion is debatable, amendable, or requires a majority vote. It is now open for discussion. All those in favor of accepting the receipt of the bid for the Texas Water Development Board for the Downtown Waterline Replacement Project and authorize the project to be rebid, say aye.
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 All opposed say no. The ayes have it. The motion carries, and we will accept the receipt of the bid for the from the Texas Water Development Board Downtown Water line replacement project, authorize the project to be bid. Item number 7 on your agenda. Consideration of possible action regarding calling a public hearing to be conducted by City Council acting as the Zoning Board of Adjustments regarding a variance request for a front building line of 25 feet instead of the required 35 feet for the proposed Heritage 3 development along SH 105 west of the Louisa intersection as submitted by Cheetah Management to be held on May 26th at 6 p.m.
Mayor and council, as you recall, this item was on the March 10th agenda. We did not have a supermajority present, which is required for zoning board of adjustment actions. So we had postponed it until the next meeting, which was not held because of the COVID-19 situation. So just out of an abundance of caution to comply with notification laws, we would like to recall this meeting so we can publish notices and send out the notifications.
Make a motion that we accept the variance request for a front building line of 25 feet instead of required 35 feet for the proposed Heritage 3 development along State Highway 105 west of Louisa Street intersection as submitted by Cheatham Management.
Sorry, are we just calling the public hearing for this?
That's what we need to be doing, yes. We'll act on it after the public hearing of May 26th.
I'm sorry, I thought we'd done all that.
We did. It was a particularly memorable meeting in that John and I almost held hands and skipped down the aisle because we both were in complete agreement on it.
Let's not lose our heads, Rebecca.
There was a quorum at the meeting, but there was not a supermajority, which is what you have to have.
Oh, okay. So we're just for the public hearing. That's what.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. Well, that's my motion then.
Can we also state the date and time and location of the public hearing being called?
So Susan, I have a question about that. May 26th, I assume that we hopefully will be in City Hall, but if not, should that motion be via Zoom or at 101 Old Plantersville Road?
Yes.
I will second then if John is making a motion to call a public hearing for the Zoning Board of Adjustments, public hearing for the variance request for the front building line of 25 feet instead of the required 35 feet for the proposed Heritage 3 development along State Highway 105 west of Louisa Street intersection as submitted by Cheatham Management to be held on Tuesday, May 26th at 6 p.m. or via Zoom at 101 Old Plantersville Road or by Zoom.
Motion as stated.
It has been moved and seconded that we accept the public hearing to be conducted by City Council acting as the Zoning Board of Adjustments regarding a variance request for a front building line of 25 feet instead of the required 35 feet for the proposed Heritage 3 development along SH 105 west of Louisa intersection as submitted by Cheetah Management to be held on May 26th at 6 p.m. either by Zoom or 101 Old Plantersville Road, City Hall. This motion is debatable, amendable, requires a majority vote. It is open for discussion. All those in favor of accepting the motion, say aye.
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 All those opposed, say no. The motion carries. We will accept the public hearing to be conducted at City Hall acting as a Zoning Board of Adjustments regarding a variance request for a frontline building line of 25 feet instead of the required 35 feet for the proposed Heritage 3 development along SH 105 west of Louisa Street intersection as submitted by Cheetah Management to be held on May 26th at 6 p.m. either by Zoom or on location at 101 Old Plantersville City Hall. Next item of business, number 8 on your agenda. Consideration of possible action regarding calling a public hearing for a rezoning request from R1 single family residential to B commercial for lot 16, area D, Montgomery Town Site, section 4, a vacant lot between 21105 Eva Street as submitted by Cheetah Management to be held on May 26th at 6 p.m.
Again, Mayor and Council, this was the public hearing we were going to have on the rezoning for the parking lot expansion behind the original Heritage Place, and there was not a supermajority at the meeting, which you needed a supermajority to have your full range of options on how you could act. So we're asking to recall this public hearing for the same date as the previous one, May 26th at 6 p.m.
I move to call the public hearing for rezoning request from R1 Single Family Residential to B Commercial for Lot 16, Area D, Montgomery Town Site, Section 4, a vacant lot behind 21105 Eva Street as submitted by Cheatham Management for City Council acting as the Zoning Board of Adjustments for Tuesday, May 26th at 6 p.m. to be held at 101 Old Plantersville Road or via Zoom.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that we accept the public hearing for a rezoning request for the R1 Single Family Residential to be commercial for Lot 16, Area D, Montgomery Town Site, Section 4, a vacant lot behind 21105 Eva Street, as submitted by Cheatham Management to be held on May 26th at 6 p.m., either by Zoom or Old Plantersville Road, with City Council acting as the Zoning Board of Adjustments. This motion is debatable, amendable, requires a majority vote. It is now open for discussion.
Mayor, if I may, you will not be acting as the Zoning Board of Adjustment. You'll just be acting as City Council. My apologies.
I'm sorry.
Strike.
I got ahead of myself.
All those in favor of the public hearing, say aye.
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 Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it. The motion carries, and we will have a public hearing for a rezoning request from R1 Single Family Residential Commercial for Lot 16, Area D, Montgomery Town Site, Section 4, a vacant lot behind 21105 Eva Street, as submitted by Cheatham Management to be held on May 26, 2020 at 6 p.m., either by Zoom or at City Hall, 101 Old Plantersville Road. Last item of business on your agenda, number 9, consideration and possible action to appoint Kevin Lacey to fill the vacancy on City Council, Place 1, created by the resignation of John Bickford.
Mayor and Council, this item, as you know, with any several times where you do need a majority, and when you don't have it, when you have a vacant seat, you have, like we did, we had to postpone the Zoning Board of Adjustments. Mr. Lacey is the only candidate who's running unopposed in a race for the upcoming election, which is now pushed back to November. The idea would be to have, someone who could gain some experience, be involved in the budget, and again, be able to fill a seat and give you a supermajority. I personally don't have much knowledge of this item, so I'll turn it over to you guys.
May I step in real quick here, since my position? Alan, I'm assuming we've run this by you, correct?
Yes. Yes, you have.
Okay. Here's going to be my humble request. I would ask that we table this and that we appoint for position 1 an individual that the council agrees upon. At that point, I would resign and Kevin Lacey would take my place. I've done a little bit of investigation, and I say point blank, Mr. Randy Burley has agreed to serve for 7 months at position 1, although that doesn't preclude us getting more applicants. But I would ask that we consider appointing someone for position 1 at the next meeting, at which point Kevin Lacey would take the position that he has been elected to by the fact that he was unopposed, and be consistent with what I believe to be the wishes of the city. That's my request. Conversation?
We all run at large, so it's not like we're representing one particular group or another. I mean, I think part of having Kevin in particular on is to get experience with the rest of us who've been on for longer, and obviously you've been on the longest, so whether you leave or whether you stay, and I think having him be around with people who have more experience is better. And I think the item is for him to serve with the rest of us. And I think that that's the way that this item should go. If you want to resign and have Randy take your place, that's fine. I don't think that the voters will be confused when it comes to pulling the lever for somebody running unopposed in position 2 if Kevin has to move down 1 seat in November. I'd like to just get this taken care of so we can keep moving forward regardless of whether you change your mind in 2 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever, or if you decide to serve out until November, then Kevin can get the experience. We've got a lot going on in the budget. Obviously, you have a lot of opinions about what we need to do, and whether I agree with you or not, that's not necessarily the worst thing to have your experience as part of the process. I think we should just get going and appoint the person who's unopposed to the position that's vacant now.
That he was elected to, right? So
no,
I see the logic behind it. I'm not disputing the logic. I'm really not. I'm going to resign. So to your point, we can do it this way or we can do it another way. Doesn't matter to me. My only request was that it seems to me to be consistent with the election process. 2 weeks to me is not gonna hurt anything in terms of Kevin's experience and as far as. But I get it. I think
it's personally risky because we can't appoint somebody to your position until you're gone. Which means that
we don't appoint anybody to my position. My position has been filled.
But let me just jump in. If you have 2 vacancies at one time, then you're kicked over into where you cannot fill a vacancy by appointment. It can only be filled by special election.
Here we go. My question is this. We appoint the position that's open, position 1. At that point, I resign. What happens, Alan?
Yeah, and I followed the way you described it at the onset. And as long as you keep 1 vacancy at a time and no more, then you can do exactly that.
I prefer just to do it this way and get done what we were going to do. And I'd love to see you stay and participate. If you don't want to, that's fine. Randy is certainly an able and efficient and inspiring budgetary wonk and would be great. I'm sure other people would want to participate, and whoever we choose would be somebody to do it. But all I'm saying is I'd like to just get it done so that there are 5 of us and we can get back to business.
It's not to be a bit well, what's the word? Well, terse. This is totally against what you have been in the past. But I'm not going to. You've been against filling positions in the past. That being said, it really doesn't matter. The fact is, I see the logic behind it. I will vote no, but the council will have its way.
We're not asking an election because he's running unopposed. We're not confusing things because he's running unopposed. All he's getting is 6 months worth of experience.
An alternative. You disagree? That's fine. That's fine. It's fine.
Randy could end up here 2 weeks from now if you do choose to resign and he puts his application. If you resign tonight, and we fill it, if we have applicants and we fill it in 2 weeks, then we could be in the same situation.
Absolutely.
And if it makes you uncomfortable, we could even swap the name tags.
The what?
The name tags.
Yeah, right. Okay. Anyway, that was my thing.
John, I was just going to ask, was that your official resignation?
Did it sound like it?
I was just asking a question.
No.
For the record.
I move to appoint Kevin Lacey to fill the vacancy in City of Montgomery City Council Place 1 that was created by the resignation of John Bickford. And as a side note, this place will be filled by the special election, which will be held in November.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that we appoint Kevin Lacey to fill the vacancy on City Council Place 1, created by the resignation of John Bickford. There will be a special election held in November, and he would be on the ballot for that. This
No,
motion.
He will not be on the ballot. He will not be on the ballot for the special election. There are 2 other candidates who are signed up for that.
Right. All those in favor of accepting Kevin, I'm sorry, this space is debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. It's now open for discussion. All those in favor of accepting Kevin Lacey to fill the vacancy on City Council Place 1, created by the resignation of John Bickford, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Those opposed say no.
No.
The ayes have it. The motion carries, and we will accept Kevin Lacey to fill the vacancy on City Council Place 1, created by the resignation of John Bickford. At this time, we have nothing to discuss in executive session.
If I could just say, John, if you are going to resign, I think it would be helpful to do it and get it on the agenda, because I've been uncomfortable having 4 of us during the middle of a pandemic. I mean, if somebody goes down, then having
That's my decision, Rebecca. I appreciate your question. I'll decide one way or the other.
Okay.
I failed to see what the pandemic has to do with this, but that's just.
Well, as I said, if having a quorum is an important part of conducting business at a time that the city, in fact, needs
We
us.
have a quorum.
While we're all healthy, yes.
Oh, good grief. Okay, that's true.
Is that all for the council inquiry? Entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that we adjourn. This motion is debatable, amendment requires majority vote. All those in favor of adjournment say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The motion carries, and we will adjourn this meeting. It is officially 7:33. Thank you so much for everyone attending.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.